Hi everybody, I'm so excited to present another installation in our Global Art Connections series. This one is all about the Japanese art of paper folding. We're talking about origami. The purpose of this video is to give you an overview of how I set up the unit so that once you start it with your kiddos, you can hit the ground running. So let's dive right in. I've organized this one into 3 distinct sessions. Sometimes I organize them into 4 sessions, so just be aware this one is a little bit quicker. In this overview, you'll get a sense of how I've set it up, and if you need to modify it for your setting, you should be able to. But in an ideal world, we're talking about 3 sessions that are 40 to 45 minutes each. Now, in the first session, I have kiddos going through a digital storybook. I included in our slideshow tons of visual references of different examples of origami. We talk about where origami comes from, the origin of that word, that there are different kinds of origami paper, that origami paper is square. I mean, we try to cover a lot of elements and just kind of go over the idea that this is all about folding. And it's a practice that a lot of people really love and find relaxing, but it requires patience and precision. It's a very unique sort of strategy in the art world. You got to follow the directions to get the answer right, and there aren't that many other art forms that have that kind of formula. So it's almost more like a math type of art form, and some kids respond so positively to it for that very reason. Now, after you go over the digital storybook in session 1, we transition right away into the studio project. Now, for this unit, our studio project, of course, is an origami project. I decided that one of the most kid-friendly origami projects I know of is the fortune teller. I love to teach it to kiddos because you just kind of have this sense that you're introducing them to something that will kind of lock in and be memorable for them. So in the first session, you're really just going over all the steps on how to fold the fortune teller. Now, I set up a video tutorial because I found with experience that seems to be something that yields the highest success rate. Origami can be kind of tricky, especially for your younger kiddos who are still working out their fine motor skills, and folding things in half is kind of challenging for them. The video tutorial format frees you up as a teacher to circulate and provide assistance and kind of make sure everyone's staying on pace and not kind of slipping through the cracks and getting discouraged and behind. Now, another approach I like to employ with this is peer partnering. So you're going to see right away that there are some kids who say, oh, I've done this one, or I love origami, or I have an origami book. Those are your kids you want to pair or seat next to your struggling kiddos, because they just naturally are folding theirs faster, and then they've got time to help the kid next to them. And they seem to, usually in my experience, they tend to enjoy helping kids. So you can call them helpers, and they love the title. So the video is paced in such a way that it's meant to be a fold along type of video. You might want to watch it in advance, or just start the video in advance to make sure that you're able to play it successfully. There's a link in there to a Vimeo format, a YouTube format. There's an embedded video, but you just want to make sure that you are able to play the video and that you can get sound on the video. I provided some plan B options. There is, of course, a printed step-by-step set of directions that you could use yourself and just model everything live in the room. I've done that for years. It works. It just means that you aren't able to walk around and help kids as much. And the other option is you could print a handful of these out and put them around the room and have kids kind of self-pace through the steps. I like to have these either way for kids who are absent, or for early finishers just to kind of have in the room, and free draw days, that kind of thing. Kids love this project, and even older kids who already did it will sometimes forget the steps, and they go back and they see printouts like this and like, oh, I want to try this one again. So just know that that is included in the resource if for any reason your video tutorial option falls through. Hopefully it doesn't. Now, when they get to the end of session 1, the goal is for every kiddo in your group to have completed the folds, just the folds in the fortune teller. Now, the fun thing about the fortune teller is that it's considered what's called action origami, meaning it's meant to be manipulated. Some origami is just meant to be folded and put on display, but this one is one of those fun ones that is meant to be interactive. There's a lot of origami projects where you're supposed to open the wings, or you're supposed to, make the little frog jump. This one, you're supposed to, it turns into a little game. So you have kids go through the folds in session 1, and then they leave the projects with you. When they come back in session 2, you are doing yet another series of tutorials. And in the session 2 tutorial, they are talking about how you're providing another video tutorial. So make sure your tech is still up and running for session 2. We talk about how to label one side of the project with colors, how to label one side of the project with numbers, and then how to label the inside panels with fortunes. There's a good discussion in the slideshow on what is a fortune and what are appropriate fortunes, what are some fun options to consider. It really helps give kids some structure to what they're trying to write in there, so that you don't end up with a bunch of kids writing, your feet smell and that kind of thing. Now, in session 2, you go over some fun facts and you really just dive right back into the project, but it takes time. They are slow writers. And so you'll find that by the time they get done labeling all of this, you're out of time. So yet again, you're having them leave the projects. Now, it's hard for them. They want to take them. But the truth is, you hold it over their head that in session 3, they're going to watch one last tutorial where they learn how to play with the fortune teller, like the proper format. There's no proper format in the real world, but you're teaching them how to get this thing to work. The proper informal official rules on how to play with a fortune teller. So I hope it lines up with the way you're familiar with doing it, but you basically in the last session are going to teach them that they're inviting someone to select a color, then to select a number, and then to select a second number. And once they pick the second number, they lift up the panel and read a fortune. So there's a video tutorial that teaches them how to do it. And then the art show modification in the last session is that they walk around and actually play with their fortune teller with at least 3 classmates. So you want to just kind of mentally anticipate that there's going to be a good 7 to 10 minute portion of session 3 where the kids are just sort of milling around playing with these. I encourage them to show at least 3 different kids, read at least 3 different kids' fortunes. And then also, it goes both ways. So if I ask you to play with me, then I'll play with yours. So that all takes time. But I figured that is a more effective way to get them showing off their work to kids and looking at other kids' work than putting them all out on display. Because from the outside, there's a certain similarity. They all just kind of have that same basic look. So it's hard to think too reflectively on it just visually. Although some kids do some really cool creative stuff with them. But you're going to have them go through a lesson review after they've played with their fortune tellers. The lesson review is, I wrote several different review prompts, but there of course are blank slides in the slideshow that you could customize a review if you wanted to cater it towards something specific about something you talked about in the way you presented things. Then you have a self-assessment. Oh, by the way, did I even mention this? There's a printout that talks about how to color, number, and label the fortune tellers as well. This is directions on how to play with it. So again, if you have a kiddo that's absent or you run into any tech issues, just beware you have this printable. You could display this. If you don't want to do the video format, you could put this up on a big screen, or you could print some of these out and let kids look at them independently. But once they get to the self-assessment, this is yet another piece of paper that you could just display digitally. You could choose not to display it and just personally, pull it up on your device and read these to the kids, or you could print them out. The indicators on here say, I folded an origami fortune teller. So that's like them. How was I with the folds? Did I successfully follow the sequence of folds, and is my outcome looking like a fortune teller? The second statement says, I embellished my fortune teller with colors, numbers, and positive predictions about the future. So that's where you're kind of holding them accountable for, did you embellish this thing in the way that we talked about? The third one says, I practiced using my fortune teller with a classmate. Now, hopefully they practiced it with more than one classmate, but that has them thinking about, okay, did I use it, my fortune teller? And then the last one is, I used my materials carefully and tried my best on this project. So that has them thinking about effort and craftsmanship. There's a spot on here to write notes to the individual students or to the students' parents. This is something that you can print out and send home after session 3. It helps parents kind of understand what the unit was all about, but that's optional. You could, choose to just display that and have that be an informal discussion with the kiddos during the session, and then really only have them take this home at the end of session 3. So there's one other component in session 3 that I included, and that's early finisher suggestions. They're real simple. I suggest if you have kiddos that have extra time, let them make more origami. If you happen to have origami books in your classroom or some printed, sometimes these packs of origami paper, like I said, have printed directions. You can have them if they have access to computers or devices, tablets in your room. They could look up some tutorials. The YouTube channel for Art for Kids Hub has an origami playlist that I can say for sure is super kid friendly. So that's a great place to start if you're feeling kind of overwhelmed with where do I even look for stuff that's appropriate for kiddos. That's a safe one to try right out of the gate. I put a list of little keyword searches you can put in. Try an origami fox, or there's a couple projects that are really great for beginners, kind of classics. And then the other thing I put in as an early finisher suggestion is a storybook. There's a storybook called The Origami Master, and it is absolutely adorable. If you happen to have a copy, read it to your kiddos. If you don't have a copy, find it at the library or do a free read aloud online. It is a sweet, sweet book, and it's a great filler activity if you happen to have 10 extra minutes in any of the 3 sessions while you're going over this unit. And then the last thing I wanted to make sure you are aware was included in this resource is this guy. This is something you can print out. You could hand it to a kid. You could hang it up on a wall in your room. You could put it on a screen at the front of the room. For your early finishers, if they're looking at you going, well, now I need origami to do this, origami paper to do this, and you don't have any origami paper, or you ran out, or anything like that. This walks kids through the 4 basic steps to change a piece of printer paper into a rectangular paper into a square. And once it's a square, sky's the limit. They can make all their origami projects they please. So it's really a gift to teach kids how to do this, because then it frees them up on regular free draw days. If they really enjoy origami, you don't have to hear them nagging you for origami paper. Just say, go get a paper and turn it into a square and go try what you want to try. So I want you to know this is there, and this is a really handy resource to keep on deck. That brings us to the end of this one. I hope it's a positive experience for you. I would love to see pictures or videos of your kiddos in action. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And that is it. Like I said, I hope you enjoy this one, and thanks so much for listening.